Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Independence Day. It gives me great pleasure to be here amidst all of you and in this historic city of Agra. I'm going to share with you our view on the markets. How do we see things unfolding in the next few years? I won't talk about our products. I think CEO Bala has already given you some backdrop in terms of how do we see the market, and earlier speaker Mahesh has also given a bullish view. So as we stand at this point in time, I think there is a lot of optimism and hope going forward in terms of how the economy will shape, how the markets will do. We believe that we are at a phase where we are seeing a new cycle beginning for the economy and hence for the equity markets going forward. And if you look at the key drivers, going forward, we all talked about, I think it's a historic, this thing we have, after 30 years, we are having a government with a strong mandate, and which is very important at this point in time because we have seen coalition politics of so many years and how it has led to big decision-making, indecisiveness, and that has led to the kind of downfall of the economy, what we have seen in the last 3 years. Also, we are seeing beginning of a new cycle in terms of investment cycle, which again is a key priority of the government. And some of the macro parameters like inflation, interest are kind of trending down. The current account deficit also, which was a problem last year, is kind of under control. So these are some of the changes, what we're seeing in the macro economy, and the fact that we have a strong government would be the pillars for the growth going forward. So if you take each one of these, so we say, how many of you today heard the Prime Minister Modi's speech? Good, okay. I think more of you, I think you can see on the YouTube if many of you haven't heard that live. I think it was truly inspiring. He talked about all the small things, which need to be done. I mean, while we were all expecting about big ticket reforms, which could transform, but there are smaller things which needs to be addressed. Because I think anyways the economy is coming in from a cyclical bottom and on its own it should move up. But there are a few things if we address, then I think we could have a long-term sustainable recovery going forward. And I think India has that potential. One of the few large economies in the world which has the right demographics and can sustain growth rate in excess of around 8% for many years. So the priorities for the current government have been, they have articulated that A is to contain inflation. We have seen inflation has been pretty sticky in the last 2-3 years. Only recently it has kind of started to ease off. But if we need to really have a sustainable recovery to inflation, somewhere around 6-7% in that range. And that's the priority, and the government has talked about steps in terms of how to reduce food prices, especially in the year when we are seeing monsoons are going to be not that great. They are talking about dismantling the APMC law so that the farmers can sell directly, and that will reduce the cost of disintermediation. That's one. Obviously, improve governance. That's the key mantra of the government, and improve productivity. We have seen that as the government took charge, they have dismantled all these EGOMs and the group of ministers, which used to go on having meetings, but decisions were never being made. Even the cabinet which was being formed has been a very lean and mean cabinet. And we have seen that now the bureaucrats, the working hours have increased, and that's what even the Prime Minister himself said in today's speech, that he would like to see more man hours being put in by the bureaucrats. So I think clearly that would mean speedier decision making and faster execution going forward. The third priority for the government is job creation. I think for a country like India, which has such a large youth population coming into the working class, we need to create enough jobs, and unless we do that, there could be clearly a huge unrest. And that can only be created through manufacturing, setting up huge manufacturing facilities and driving that. Again, this was something which the Mr. Modi again mentioned today in his speech. That's going to be the key focus. And for that, certain reforms need to happen in both in labor as well as land acquisition. So that's going to be another key focus of the government. And reforms, which will follow clearly in mining, power sector, which are the two big sectors, which have seen a significant slowdown because of clearances not coming through. So that needs to be expedited as we move forward. And PSU reforms, okay, PSUs, if you know, this government in the earlier regime had successfully done disinvestment of PSUs. And a lot of the PSUs are sitting on huge amount of assets. They have got huge natural resources. And if they are significantly able to improve productivity, I think there is, and the government is able to do successful disinvestment, I think the government's fiscal deficit problems can easily be tackled. I mean, this year, we could expect almost 75 to 80,000 crores being raised to PSU disinvestment and stake sale in companies like Hindustan Zinc. So that's again a priority, and obviously, finally, infrastructure development. That's going to be a priority because the capex cycle, industrial capex will take time because there's still a lot of excess capacity. Infrastructure push can revive the economy, and the areas here would be like railways, roads, creating new cities, airports, ports. So these are areas which the new government is going to focus going forward. So if you look at some of the key development, if you look at the, in the last more than 2 months now the government has been in place, and if you look at the track record of the government, what they have done, they have announced some new projects, both in road and railways in the budget. We have seen the opening of the sectors for FDI in railways, which is more than 100%. FDI insurance also has been opened up. And a lot of other initiatives, okay, which have been taken. Clearances, we have seen 3 new rail lines have been cleared by Environmental Ministry, so that coal, we can see incremental 100 million tons of excess coal in the next 3 years. So while a few things have been done, I think clearly the focus, okay, would be to do the bits and pieces, do the kind of repair work which needs to be done in the economy, okay, to see that it comes back on the recovery path. And the good news is that we have seen, so before investment cycle, as I said, is again going to be the key driver. In the last 3 years, we have seen that new project announcements have come down to a standstill because of policy inertia. Only recently, we have seen some pickup over there. We have seen that some of the projects which have been stalled, which is to the extent of more than 10 lakh crores, they have slowly started getting clearances. The project monitoring group which was set up by the earlier government, even the current government recognizes that this is something which is good, and they'll continue with that. We have seen clearances in the oil and gas sector, power sector coming through, and I think most important is the business confidence is likely to come back, and slowly we will see pick up industrial capex going forward. Inflation, as I mentioned earlier, good news is that it started to come down. We have seen the transmission of the monetary policy of the RBI is now starting to take effect. Okay, it normally happens with a delay, and if you look at CPI, which is the benchmark